You know, after this movie, I'm wondering if Del Toro still wants to make that Haunted Mansion movie for Disney that he's been planning, because this is pretty much the closest thing we get to a Haunted Mansion movie that's not awful. Crimson Peak is directed by Guillermo del Toro and stars Mia Wasikowska, Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain, and Charlie, I can't hold my American accent, Hunnam. The movie focuses on a young, aspiring writer, played by Wasikowska. She's someone who lost her mother at a young age, and has this ability to see ghosts. She constantly sees her mother's ghost from time to time, telling her, "Beware of Crimson Peak!" Then someone named Thomas Sharp, played by Tom Hiddleston, comes into town, and she starts to fall for him, he starts to fall for her, but her father does not approve. So then her father is mysteriously murdered. Edith, who Mia Wasikowska plays, marries Thomas Sharp, and the two of them go up to their giant mansion where Tom and his sister lives, played by Jessica Chastain, but Edith soon discovers that this is the place called Crimson Peak that her mother's ghost warned her about. And let's just say from that point on, creepy shit happens. So as I mentioned, this is directed by Guillermo del Toro, who's done the Hellboy movies, Blade 2, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim. He has a real knack for visuals. Pacific Rim had a lot of elements that, even for being a monster movie, looked very beautiful. And Pan's Labyrinth is really beautiful also. So the man really has an eye for visuals, strong and creative ones. And I think Crimson Peak is one of his best ones to date, because everything in this movie, down to the visuals, the cinematography, the costumes, the production design, is all incredible. You can tell that the costume department, art department, DP, and the special effects team really put their all into making this one of the most beautiful, probably the most beautiful looking movie I've seen this year. Like, in terms of visuals, it's just absolutely amazing. The plot itself, it's not bad, but it's just not very strong. It's, as what it's called, a gothic romance movie. It kind of follows the typical routes of these kinds of movies, but it's not done bad. And besides, like, what's really good about the movie, visual-wise, really is great and keeps this movie from being an absolute train wreck, in my opinion. Because it's not bad. In terms of your actors, you got Tom Hiddleston in this movie. He's really good. He has this aspect of mystery and charm that makes you kind of question who he is, especially when it comes to the relationship between him and his sister, who's played by Jessica Chastain, who I thought was actually kind of flat at the beginning of this movie, but as it progressed, there's a reason why she sounds a little flat, and she actually ends up being the most creepy actor in the whole movie. I mean, Jessica Chastain is always fantastic, and this is a true example of starting out flat and not convincing me that she's good in the movie, to making me terrified of her by the time the third act kicked in. Mia Wasikowska, I hope I'm saying that right. Such a it's like Apu Nahasapina Pendulon, where it's one of those, like, your first name is so simple, but your last name is so... Wasikowska, got it. Anyway, Mia Wasikowska is, she's alright. I haven't really seen any movies where she stood out, where we're like, wow, she's incredible, because her big debut was Alice in Wonderland. Ugh. But here, I thought she was decent. There were points where she was good, and some points where she seemed kind of dull, but overall, she was fine. Charlie Hunnam, on the other hand, why can't this man hold an American accent? He plays a childhood friend of Edith and the doctor of the town that she grew up in, and he suffers from the same problem he did in Pacific Rim, where it's like, he's trying to play an American, yet somehow his English accent keeps slipping out. Like, you can hear hints of his English accent. I don't know whether that's because he's not a really good actor, or Guillermo del Toro just doesn't direct him very well, but it's just so distracting. Though in the end, I will say, because of the visuals, Crimson Peak is definitely one of those movies that is solely a visual experience. While the plot isn't too strong and there are pacing issues, what the movie does great, it does fantastic. It knocks it out of the park. It's beautiful to look at, it's creepy at points, and there are some death scenes that make me cringe. When it comes to the death scenes in these kinds of movies, I don't really get affected by it because it's usually just over the top, or it's just a machete there, they might cut away. And when you consider something like Saw or Final Destination, that's just torture porn, and the deaths are so graphic that they almost become silly. These deaths are completely brutal. I was in my seat squirming and cringing like, oh God! But that's something I gotta give the movie credit for, is that it's not shy to show anything graphic and cringeworthy. So I think for that and the visuals, I'd say the movie is good, but it's not great. I doubt I would ever watch this movie again, but I can't say that it's a bad movie at all. And if you're really gonna see this movie, gotta kind of see it on the big screen to really take in the visuals completely, because if you saw it at home, I doubt you would get the same effect. And that's my review for Crimson Peak. Leave a comment and tell me what you thought of the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Like, subscribe, share me with your friends, and this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.